Hello everybody, I'm Grant Fluff from Fluster Sports Zone and welcome back to another YouTube video. And today we are going to continue our Hall of Fame or Hall of Good series. Episode 5, we continue to move right along through the offensive positions. Now we are in the tight ends, which will probably just be a one-parter for now. I at least want to get to defensive line. So that's right. We're going to go off to defense next. I think I'm going to skip offensive linemen, maybe revisit them. But considering that William Anderson's probably getting in the Hall of Fame this year and Tony Baselli got in the Hall of Fame last year, I really don't see a need in doing an offensive lineman one for right now. So I'm going to wait on the offensive line one. And we're going to head straight to defensive line, linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, special teams. So I do expect to do at least 5 more NFL editions. And then I think I'm going to dabble into some MLB and NHL versions of this as well once all football positions are concluded. But I hope you guys enjoy it. Of course, we're going to give you 15 plays here, and I'm going to give my honest opinion. Do they belong in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or are they NFL legends, but not legendary enough to make Canton, Ohio? Well, we'll see. Well, the first one here, we actually have a 3-for-1. Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Gates, and Jason Witten. I ain't even going to break down these guys' stats. The reason why I jumbled all 3 into one here is because they're all Hall of Famers. They're all going to be first ballot Hall of Famers as well. Gates retired after the 2019 season after being a free agent. Witten retired at the end of the 2020 season. Yeah, that was last year. And then Rob Gronkowski just officially retired a couple weeks ago. Now, I know Gronk, he officially retired before, and then he came back and played with the Buccaneers. But he announced today that even if Tom Brady wants him to come back, he's still going to say no. And I do agree for Gronk especially. He has a lot of wear and tear on his body. Gates was great, but obviously he hasn't played in a few years, so he's not coming back. And Jason Witten, just like the Gronk, retired for a year, joined ESPN in the broadcast booth, was terrible in that. Went back to the Cowboys in 2019 before ending his career with the Raiders in 2020. Again, I'm not even going to break down any of these 3 players' stats. Let's just put it to you this way. If you don't think these 3 men on the screen are not first ballot Hall of Famers, you are an absolute casual, and you just need to do some research on your tight end history, all right? All right, now on to, I guess, the first one that I'll actually give an opinion on. Todd Heap, former Raven and Cardinal, all right? One shy of 500 career regular season receptions. He had 5,869 yards and 42 touchdowns. Two Pro Bowl appearances in 2002 and in 2003. He combined for 9 touchdowns throughout those 2 seasons and about 1,500 yards. In the playoffs, he had an additional 2 touchdowns along with 385 yards. So at the end of the day, we are looking at just over 6,000 yards and 44 touchdowns with 2 Pro Bowls. Here's the issue with Todd Heap here. The 2 Pro Bowls I don't think is enough to put him in the Hall of Fame. Not to mention, those 2 Pro Bowls were at literally year 2 and 3 of his career. You look, and even at his last 2 years with the Cardinals, he only caught 1 touchdown in 2011 before only catching 94 yards in 2012, getting released midway through the season. Yeah, I gotta say, Todd Heap is not a Hall of Famer. Is he a Baltimore Ravens legend? I think so. Is he the best Ravens tight end ever? Well, at least until Mark Andrews starts passing some of his statistics, he absolutely is. But for Todd Heap, I'm going to have to say no on the Hall of Fame. A very good player, yes, but I don't know if I can put him in Canton, Ohio. I mean, maybe luck of the class he gets in like 50 years from now. But usually when I say a player is going to get in, that's my opinion. And then I go into, is Canton, Ohio going to let him in? And basically when I say, is the Pro Football Hall of Fame going to vote committee going to vote for a player like this? I mean, is he going to get inducted in the Hall of Fame for the next 25 to 30 years at absolute most? Yeah, he would have to wait probably longer than that. All right, moving on to another AFC North tight end, Heath Miller of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just like Heap, he has 2 Pro Bowls, but he also has 2 Super Bowl rings to go along with that. Actually, if you include his playoff statistics, he has well over 7,000 career yards and 49 career touchdowns. He made his first Pro Bowl in 2009 when the Steelers won Super Bowl 43. He had 789 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns that year, and then he would make it again in 2012. 71 catches for 816 yards and 8 touchdowns, which was his career high in touchdowns in a season. And he'd be a pretty consistent tight end up until his retirement after the 2015 season. He only didn't get over 400 yards in a season once, and that was the second year of his career in 2006 when he had 393. So yeah, other than 2006, every other year he managed to get over 400 yards. Very solid tight end. Again, we take a look at his playoff statistics here. 587 total yards. He had 100 plus yards receiving in both the Steelers Super Bowl runs, also catching 1 touchdown in both of those. Miller's very good. Is he a shoo-in like Kronk, Winton, and Gates? Absolutely not. Does he have a better chance of getting in than Todd Heap? Absolutely. Also playing with the Steelers instead of the Ravens also helps with that. I say that if you play for a more iconic franchise, I think the easier chance you're going to get of going into the Hall of Fame. This is a flip of a coin because, again, it's almost like if you allow someone like Miller in the Hall of Fame, then you should allow someone like Todd Heap, no problem. But again, Miller has the Super Bowl rings and slightly better regular season statistics on top of extremely better playoff statistics, right? Never really accomplished much in terms of, how do I explain this, achievements other than the 2 Pro Bowls. Miller has been up for, I don't really know if the Hall of Fame committee has got him in to vote just yet, but basically if he was a first ballot Hall of Famer, he would have gotten in last year when Peyton Manning and Calvin Johnson, because they also retired in 2015. So yeah, I would have gotten in 2020 if he would have gotten in 2020 if he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Again, I don't even know if the Hall of Fame voters even have Miller up in their ballot yet, but he's still 39 years old. Again, he's just 3rd year of eligibility will be next season. I think we can assume that Miller probably won't get in for at least a very long time in Canton, Ohio. Do I think he's a Hall of Famer? I think in terms of if he was a receiver, absolutely not. But since he's a tight end, you can definitely make the argument. I'm going to say, no, this is so tough. I got to make a decision. I'm going to say yes, just because, again, like I said, I think Miller and Heap, very similar players. It's just Miller does have the playoff statistics and just overall better numbers. Now, granted, I know he played with Ben Roethlisberger his whole career instead of who did he play with? Anthony Wright, Tony Banks, maybe Trent Dilfer. I don't think Trent Dilfer, actually. I think he was a little after that. But, and then Joe Flacco for a little bit before he went to the Cardinals and was playing with who? Kevin Cobb. Like, give me a break. Heath Miller has had that stable quarterback. He's part of that iconic franchise. I don't think Miller's going to get in anytime soon, but I would say probably sometime within the next 15 years. He will get into Canton, Ohio, and yes, I do think he will be in my Hall of Fame as well. All right, moving on to Chewy Mark Chimera, Green Bay Packers legend right here. Mark Chimera. Here's my one concern. He only played from 93 to 99. That's a bit short. Yep, that's a bit short. He made 3 Pro Bowls, And I'm going to tell you why he made 3 Pro Bowls, because he was a touchdown machine. In 1995, when he made his first Pro Bowl, 679 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then 1997, he had 417 yards and 6 touchdowns. And in 1998, 554 yards and 4 touchdowns. You got where I'm saying, right? Touchdown machine. Even in the playoffs, in 14 playoff games, he had 4 receiving touchdowns. Surprisingly, did not catch any in the Packers' trip to defeating the Patriots in Super Bowl 31. That's kind of shocking that he didn't catch a touchdown that year in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I know the 3 Pro Bowls looks amazing, especially for a 6th-round pick. And I'm not saying Jamar was terrible, but too short of a career, I think, to be in the Hall of Fame. Also, 2,253 yards. If a player has around under 4,000, 500 at absolute bare bones minimum receiving yards, he absolutely should not be in the Hall of Fame. Again, the 3 tight ends make it a conversation at least. He was a touchdown machine in the red zone. That's going to happen when Brett Favre is your quarterback, but that's honestly what he was. He got injured in 1999 and just didn't play football again after only catching 55 yards in 2 games. So in 1999. So yeah, I got to say, although much respect to him as a Massachusetts native, love the fact that he was probably the most successful tight end ever out of Boston College. Hopefully Hunter Long and the Dolphins can maybe surpass that one day. But Jamar, a great career. Again, loved you coming from Boston College, but I can't put a guy with under 3,000 yards in the Hall of Fame. Although the 3 Pro Bowls is tempting. It's just crazy how Heath Miller and even Todd Heap were just significantly better than Jamar, but Jamar makes more Pro Bowls because of the era he played in. That's also what you got to take in consideration. I personally think Heath Miller would have made about 4 or 5 Pro Bowls if he played in the 90s. So I'm also kind of taking that into consideration. Information's, Hall of Fame's never about a what if game. It's a what we know game. But as I say in every episode, yeah. Basically, I'll let you know if I think a player would have succeeded in it better or whatever. Jamar was fine in the 90s. I think he would pretty much be put Trumpy. Oh, now we're going back. We're going from the 90s all the way back to the 70s, for crying out loud. Yeah, Trumpy played from 68 to 77. There you go. 4 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro. Regular season statistics, just under 300 career receptions, 4,600 yards, 35 touchdowns, and absolutely 0 playoff statistics to go along with that. His All-Pro season happened in 1969. 37 receptions for 835 yards and 9 touchdowns, averaging a remarkable 22.6 yards per reception. I think, that's going to happen when you play with Greg Cook for the couple of years he was healthy, and then, of course, Ken Anderson afterwards. I already said Ken Anderson should have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago in my quarterback edition. And honestly, like I said, and what did I just say on Chimera? If a receiver has under 4,500 yards, for me, it's an automatic no. Trumpy, literally 100 yards, just 100 yards over what I say is the absolute bare bone minimum to get in the Hall of Fame for a tight end. 4,600 yards right on the dot. He is so lucky that's not 4,400. And you have to remember, he was drafted in the 12th round and played in an era where tight ends are not used half as much as they are used today. Trumpy with 4 Pro Bowls, I felt like he should have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago. Honestly, it kind of feels like, at least for Canton, Ohio, he would have definitely been inducted by now if he was getting inducted, if you get what I'm saying. But I'm going to put Bob Trumpy in at least the Floodster Sports Zone Hall of Fame. He's in my football Hall of Fame. Will he make Canton, Ohio? Probably not. Again, he probably had a chance up until around the mid-90s, then you kind of sensed he wasn't making it. Again, if Bob Trumpy played on a team like the 49ers or the Steelers or the Packers or the Baltimore Colts, even teams like the Vikings or Rams, like would Trumpy have a better shot making the Hall of Fame than he did with the Bengals? Absolutely. Remember, Trumpy played in the 60s and 70s. These are back when the Bengals were terrible. This was before their Super Bowl runs, and obviously in 81 and 89. And you would think if Trumpy didn't get inducted after the Bengals made the Super Bowl in 89, that was probably his last real shot of making it. Again, maybe he gets in on the veteran votes, but I don't think he will. But he's in my Hall of Fame at least because he just got over the right amount of yards. And again, 4 Pro Bowls, that's not terrible, man. That's the most we've seen so far, at least more than Miller and Heap have gotten. All right, moving on to Keith Jackson, a very underrated tight end, and another one who didn't play for incredibly long, but he was extremely talented when he did play. Playing the Eagles, Dolphins, and Packers. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros, won a Super Bowl. Yeah, he won Super Bowl 31 with Green Bay and was the 1988 Rookie of the Year as he literally made an All-Pro his first 3 seasons with the Eagles, racking up almost 2,000 over 2,000 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. And that's not even including his playoff statistics. Wow. He also has a lot of really good playoff statistics. 51 catches for 834 yards and 6 touchdowns in the playoffs. Regular season-wise, 441 catches, 5,283 yards, and 49 touchdowns. Since he retired in 1996, I really don't think his time is up yet. I mean, you still see guys from the mid to late 90s trickling in the Hall of Fame still. Like I mentioned, with guys like Tony Vaselli and Leroy Butler last year and Bryant Young, right? Like there's still mid to late 90s players trickling in the Hall of Fame today. I would imagine Keith Jackson will be one of them. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be anytime soon, but I do think probably within the next 15 years, he makes Canton's Hall of Fame. And yes, I am putting Keith Jackson in my Hall of Fame. 3 All-Pros coming in your first 3 years in the league, that's incredible. That's damn near unheard of. Even George Kittle and Travis Kelce did make 3 All-Pros in their first 3 seasons, right? That's incredible. 5,000 receiving yards, well over 50 touchdowns, including playoff statistics. Actually, at 55. Yeah, put K-Jack in the hall, baby. Again, I feel like his time has kind of passed, and now he's going to be stuck waiting for a little bit. But I definitely wouldn't mind seeing Keith Jackson in the Hall of Fame. Definitely looking at statistics, he deserves it. Moving on next to 3-time Super Bowl champion tight end Jay Novacek. He also made 5 Pro Bowls and All-Pro. 4,630 yards with 30 touchdowns in regular season action, and he was a monster in the playoffs as well. Add an extra 645 yards to that total with 6 touchdowns. 36 career touchdowns and 5,000, roughly 200 career receiving yards. Yeah, just like Jackson. I know he has less All-Pros, but still, 5 Pro Bowls. With being the best tight end in the mid-90s, I think Novacek is a Hall of Famer, absolutely. I know he started off his career very sluggish with the Cardinals, just barely cracked over 1,000 yards there. But yeah, once he went to Dallas and once, Jimmy Johnson took over as the head coach, Troy Aikman fully developed. The Cowboys' offensive line was the best they've ever seen it. Novacek was also a great run blocker for Emmitt Smith. Let's not kid ourselves here. It's an absolute joke that Novacek is not in the Hall of Fame, I think. I think with guys like Keith Jackson or like Heath Miller, I kind of understand why they have to wait because they have the statistics in the Pro Bowls, but they were never really the best, I guess you could say, the best for a really long period of time. Novacek from 91 to 95, which, by the way, he made a Pro Bowl in 5 of his last 6 years in Dallas. He played 6 years there, made 5 straight Pro Bowls. incredible. Yep, Novacek's a Hall of Famer. Again, I felt like he definitely should have been inducted by now, but, that's okay if he's not. Definitely going to put Novacek in my Hall of Fame. At least he should definitely get into Canton as well. I mean, he has the Pro Bowls, the yards, and the rings. Novacek even has the ring argument. Oh, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Novacek should be in the Hall of Fame right now. Absolute travesty he isn't. Moving on next to Frank Wycheck. Well, he's a man who made a Pro Bowl, lost it, so you can't really throw him in the ring conversation. 3 Pro Bowls, 5,126 yards and 28 receiving touchdowns in the regular season. And didn't really do a whole lot in the playoffs other than in 2002 he had 164 yards. What else can I say about him? He was drafted by the Commanders in 93, did nothing with Washington, got traded to the Houston Oilers in 95, started off slow there, and then Steve McNair became their quarterback, and that's when his statistics really started to ramp up. Wycheck is the man who also threw the Music City Miracle against the Bills in the 99 AFC wildcard round, so whoever threw that ball to Ken Dyson that day, it was Frank Wycheck, which, by the way, the throw was backwards. Bills fans, stop complaining about it. That game was literally 23 years ago. The ball was thrown backwards, literally. Watch the play in slow motion. You'll see the ball go either straight or just a slim bit backwards. And I'm a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, and I'm defending Frank Wycheck there. Do I think Wycheck is a Hall of Famer? I think if he won a Super Bowl or an All-Pro, I think that would definitely obviously help his case. He does have over 5,000 yards, but I think for Wycheck, I'm going to say a very harsh no. Because, again, at least we knew Jackson and Novacek, and even at one point Heath Miller was like the best tight end in the league at one point. He kind of falls where Todd Heap is, right? Like, is he a borderline Hall of Famer? Sure, I think I would put Wycheck in over Heap. But at the same time, he never really was the best tight end in the league. I mean, his best season came in 1998. 70 catches, 768 yards. He only caught 2 touchdowns that year. He wasn't a touchdown machine. He was a yards machine, but he wasn't a touchdown machine. Which I don't really know if that will go for or against him in a, actual Pro Football Hall of Fame argument. In the war room, as I like to call it. But, yeah, I don't think Wycheck makes it in. Just based because of, again, other than the 3 Pro Bowls, it's just bare bones awards and achievements. And I really thought Wycheck had better playoff numbers than he did. Like, I genuinely thought coming into this video, Wycheck had more than 1 career receiving touchdown in the playoffs. Again, 2 if you count the throw to Dyson against Buffalo. I was expecting more out of Wycheck personally. He had a great career, and he honestly is the best Titans tight end ever. But I know younger fans would argue Jelani Walker, but I think Frank Wycheck probably earns that right to be the best Titans tight end. Yeah, I would say so. So, great player, but Hall of Famer, I'm going to have to say no on that one. Will he ever make Canton, Ohio? Likely not. I mean, again, if guys like Jackson and Novacek aren't in, I mean, why would you put Wycheck in? He just has worse statistics than the other 2. Moving up next, we have Wesley Walls. This is a nice one. Walls was an interesting player because when he started on the 49ers, right, you didn't really know how good he was going to play because he had next to 0 receptions there. Literally, in 4 years in San Francisco, he had 11 catches for 67 yards. Now, granted, that's just regular season. I don't even need to look at his postseason statistics because, again, I know he won the ring in 1990, but Really, other than that, I know he didn't do much in San Francisco. He goes to the Saints. At least he gets playing time. He gets over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. And then he spends the next 7 years with the Carolina Panthers. And this is where the Hall of Fame argument begins. 3,902 yards, 44 touchdowns. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. And 1 receiving touchdown in the 96 playoffs with the Panthers. Then he would end his career with the Packers in 2003 before retiring. 5-time Pro Bowler, over 5,000 yards, 54 touchdowns, 55 again, including the playoffs. Walls was screwed. In putting it in a better way of putting it, basically. If this guy caught at least 600 to 800 yards in San Francisco, if San Francisco actually developed Walls, he would be 100% in my Hall of Fame. I wouldn't even be thinking about it because he would have at that point well over 6,000 receiving yards. He had great 2 years with New Orleans that really put him on the map, and then joining division rival Carolina really set his career on the right track. Almost got 4,000 receiving yards in a Panther uniform. Don't worry, I got the other great Panther tight end, Greg Olsen. He's on this list as well. We'll get to him in a little bit. As for Wesley Walls, I think I'm putting it to you this way. Walls is in my Hall of Fame. The question is, does he get into Canton, Ohio? Maybe. If he was a receiver, I would say no. But since, again, tight end, he's got the statistics to make it as a tight end. Now, again, just like Jackson and Novacek, 5 Pro Bowls, and he has not made it in yet. That really sucks. But yeah, Wells in my Hall of Fame. We'll see if Canton, Ohio lets him in the next probably 15 years. I hope anyway. Yeah, we'll see if Wells makes it. Ooh, Vernon Davis, a little bit of a newer player here. Vernon Davis retired. I think right before the 2020 season. He has 7,000 receiving yards, 63 touchdowns. Of course, primarily played on the 49ers before ending his career winning a Super Bowl with the Broncos, and then ending his career with the Commanders from 2016 to 2019. 63 touchdowns, 7,000 yards, 2-time Pro Bowler. I'm putting it to you this way. I got to put Vernon Davis in my Hall of Fame. Basically, because I just said if Wesley Walls had over 6,000 receiving yards, I put him in the Hall of Fame. Granted, Walls has 3 more Pro Bowls than Davis, but Davis, if he played in the 90s, he would have also probably made 5 or 6 Pro Bowls, and he still wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and I'd still be talking about why the hell isn't he in the Hall of Fame, right? But yeah, I do think Vernon Davis is in the Hall of Fame, at least my Hall of Fame. Will Canton, Ohio let him in? Probably not, if I'm being brutally honest, but do I think he's a Hall of Famer? He has the statistics to be, so I don't see why he wouldn't. He has over 7,500 yards, actually over 8,000 receiving yards if you include the playoff statistics, with 70 touchdowns. Yeah, over 8,000 yards and 70 touchdowns for a tight end. That was consistently somewhere in like the top 7 from his rookie year in 2006 to like 2016, 2017. He was like constantly top 10. Absolutely. First year of so he can be first ballot when here. He retired in 2019, so 2024, 2025, something like that. Yeah, we'll see if he won't make it in first ballot, but yeah, I do think within the next decade, Vernon Davis will be in the Hall of Fame. Recency bias helps with that also, but I mean, come on. His Super Bowl season, 2009, led the league in touchdowns with 13, had 965 receiving yards in his other years, second to last year with San Francisco. Again, 13 touchdowns, 850 yards. In 2010, he had 914 yards. That's another year he could have maybe made the Pro Bowl, had a career best 16.3 yards a catch. Davis has the statistics to make it in. And let's not forget, Davis, like, I know he ended up playing with guys like Alex Smith twice in Washington and San Francisco. He played for Kaepernick for a little bit. And he played with Manning and Osweiler with the Super Bowl 50 Broncos. But Davis also played with a bunch of horrible quarterbacks. Just in Washington alone, I remember playing with guys like Case Keenum, Josh Johnson, Mark Sanchez. Oh, yeah, he had Kirk Cousins too for a little bit. I shouldn't discredit him. San Francisco had some bad quarterbacks like Sean Hill. I'm trying to think of other. Oh, I think Trent Dilfer for a year. What I'm getting to is that basically until Kaepernick reached his ceiling, he played with a bunch of terrible quarterbacks. And then once Kirk Cousins left Washington, he started playing with more trash quarterbacks. And he still put up over 8,000 career receiving yards. Get him in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. All right, moving on next, we have Jeremy Shockey. All right. This is a nice one here. Giants legend. He also won a Super Bowl with the Saints and played on the Panthers. Let's see Jeremy Shockey here. 6,000 plus receiving yards, 4 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Yep, Giants in 07, Saints in 09, 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. So we're looking at roughly 6,500 yards with 40 touchdowns and 4 Pro Bowls. Yep, Jeremy Shockey's a Hall of Famer. I know the 40 touchdowns is a little low. But again, it's kind of just like someone like Walls or Davis. It's that he was just constantly putting up top 10 tight end numbers since, he made the All-Pro his first year with 894 receiving yards. That was probably a rookie tight end. Well, it wasn't a tight end record because probably Keith Jackson set that back in the 80s, right? But Shockey at least had a very good rookie season, made the Pro Bowl 4 of his first 5 years with the Giants, and then he didn't make a Pro Bowl after 2006, but he continuously stayed consistent. Heck, even with his 1 year at the Panthers in 2011, he managed to get 455 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, it's not terrible for a guy who was a tight end too at that point. Shockey was a hard-nosed tight end. He was the definition of, if he played in the 70s, you would have feared this man. He was just simply incredible, especially with the Giants getting over 4,000 yards and 27 touchdowns in the regular season, and then continuing that success with the Saints, 1,460 yards and 6 TDs. He also has the ring argument, just like someone like Jay Novacek. He also has the ring argument. Again, Shockey, a little bit surprised he hasn't been in the Hall of Fame already, because again, I feel like recency bias would kind of push him through, but I guess it's not meant to be. Obviously, he hasn't been a first ballot since his first ballot must have been in 2016. So obviously that's a no-go, but potentially he can get in sometime around like 2028 to like 2035. I don't know. That's probably when most of these guys will get in, is around that time frame. Up next, we have Owen Daniels. This is an interesting one. The other tight end on the Broncos that won Super Bowl 50. Yep, it was Daniels and Davis. I like that. D&D, Dunkin' Donuts. You hearing this? Sponsor me. All right. All right. But Owen Daniels, greatest Texans tight end in history. That's not even a question. 2 Pro Bowls with Houston in 2008. He had 862 yards and 2 touchdowns, and in 2012, he had 716 yards and 6 touchdowns. The 2008 Pro Bowl is kind of weak. He had over 800 yards, but only had 2 touchdowns. That's because Matt Schaub was an absolute gunslinger the first couple of years he was the Texans starter. Remember, he led the league in passing yards in 2009. By the way, that 2009 season, pretty good for Daniels. Had over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns in just 8 games. He probably would have made another Pro Bowl there. So That wasn't bad. He played with Baltimore in 2014, caught over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, and again, retired after winning the Super Bowl with the Broncos in 2015. And guess what? He still caught over 500 yards and 3 touchdowns, 4 including the postseason. Actually, 5 including the postseason. I was about to say, I remembered he caught a touchdown in the AFC Championship game against New England. And I think he may have scored in Super Bowl 50. I don't remember. But anyway, 3 career receiving touchdowns, 400 yards. So that's about 6,000. I think this is kind of one of those deals where I think we're going to have another kind of Frank Wycheck deal here. Was he a great tight end? Yes. Was he consistently a top 10? Yeah, but it's like if he made 4 Pro Bowls, I'd probably say Daniels is a yes. With the 2, I would say no. Would Canton, Ohio put him in? Honestly, probably not. Again, this can fall into the case because he has roughly the same stats as Heath Miller. So, again, I can say this as if he played for a way better team and didn't play on some terrible Texans teams and literally didn't wait until the last game of his career to win a ring, I'm saying that, yeah, he could have been a Hall of Famer if he played on, like, the Patriots or the Colts. Now, I hate to say that, but the NFL, they're kind of prejudiced against small market teams when it comes to the Hall of Fame and whatnot. So, I hate to use that as an excuse, but honestly, that's why. He probably won't get inducted into Canton, then, yeah, I wouldn't really put him in my Hall of Fame either. Yeah, great stats, don't get me wrong. You add, like, another Pro Bowl or 2, I'm probably likely saying yes, but no on Daniels. That's a very harsh no. I would actually probably put him ahead of I'll put him ahead of Wycheck, though, for a player who was, I guess, more deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. All right, moving on. Next, we have Brent Jones, 49ers tight end from the 80s and 90s. 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 4 Pro Bowls, 3-time Super Bowl champion. I think on the surface, you have 740 yards and 5 touchdowns. Yeah, I was about to say, I think regular season-wise, he has slightly worse stats than Owen Daniels, but you include the playoff stats. Yeah, he runs away with this one. Actually drafted by the Steelers. I never knew that, but of course, never played a game with Pittsburgh. Played with San Francisco in 1987 and played there for a decade. And when you catch 5,700 plus receiving yards and 38 touchdowns, 4 Pro Bowls, yeah, I'd say Hall of Famer here. He made the Pro Bowl every year from 92 to 95, getting 12,000. Roughly 2,700 yards in those 4 years. Yeah, I'd say Brent Jones, Hall of Famer. Brent Jones, excuse me, not Brent Jones. Brent Jones. That one's a little bit debatable because, again, if he didn't have the Pro Bowls and he didn't play on San Francisco, would I say he's a Hall of Famer? Probably not, honestly. But because he does have those Pro Bowls and he does have better statistics than half the guys on here, I will say Brent Jones is a Hall of Famer. Kind of surprised Canton, Ohio hasn't put him in yet because they love their 49ers. But I don't know. Maybe Jones makes the Hall of Fame one day, but he's at least in my Hall of Fame. And last but not least, Greg Olsen. Now, you know the drill. If a player's put last, I think he's a Hall of Famer. And basically, I don't think it should be a debate. 3 Pro Bowls, over 900 or over 9,000 receiving yards, and 63 touchdowns, including the playoffs. Greg Olsen's a Hall of Famer, and it's not even close. Yeah, he did make an All-Pro, and that's pretty much the only thing that's going to absolutely cost him from potentially making it first ballot. 9 years with the Panthers, over 6,500 receiving yards, and a total of 41 touchdowns. He started off his career with the Bears. He caught 20 touchdowns there and just over 2,000 yards, including the playoffs. He played with the Seahawks in 2020. Dealt with an injury, though, for most of the season, so he only had 239 yards there. But absolutely, Greg Olsen's a Hall of Famer. Again, this isn't like my Phillip Rivers argument or my Fred Taylor argument. I get why people may say no, and again, it's because no All-Pro. But at the end of the day, if you add up the statistics, if you look fully in depth, if you realize that this guy was constantly, like, from 2012 to, like, 2000, pretty much 19, he was consistently a top 10 tight end in the league, you would realize that, yeah, Greg Olsen's a Hall of Famer. He made 3 Pro Bowls, made 3,000 yards all those 3 seasons. 2014, 1,008 yards and 6 touchdowns. 2015, 1,104 yards and 7 touchdowns. In 2016, with an injured Cam Newton for most of the season, 80 catches, 1,073 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Olsen's a Hall of Famer. And if you don't, again, I can see the argument why he wouldn't be first ballot, but Canton, Ohio, take notes. Put some respect on the tight ends, man. I'm shocked. I was going through this and like I knew obviously all these guys weren't in the Hall of Fame, but I was like, really? Like someone like Jay Novacek isn't? Bob Trumpy isn't? Keith Jackson isn't? Like really? Jeremy Shockey? Like even him? Really? I guess time will tell on Olsen and Davis on whether they make it in. Obviously, like I mentioned, Gronk, Witten, and Gates, they're gonna make it in, and those are honestly the only 3 shoo-ins. Again, I mean, a lot of these guys have had to wait. I mean, a lot of these guys from the 90s have already had to wait about 20 years, and the call hasn't came. It's not looking good for them. I think we will eventually get a tight end surge, which is why I think guys like Miller, Jones, Jackson, Novacek, like they'll eventually get in. Maybe even hopefully guys like Trumpy and Wycheck. But I don't know, man. Pro Football Hall of Fame. Show some more respect show some love to the tight ends, man. Wesley Walls is another one. I didn't realize how underrated of a career he had. Yeah, another one that could potentially be in the Hall of Fame. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, the like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Again, the next Hall of Fame or Hall of Good will be defensive linemen. So that'll be edge rushers and defensive tackles. And I cannot wait to dive into my Vince Wilfork argument. Is that a good argument? Is that a bad argument? Well, to be determined next time. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. I'm Grant Fluff from Fletcher Sports Zone saying enjoy the rest of your evening.